Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the, I presume will be the last UFI Connects of the year. Big thanks to Pascal for that energy boosting music just to get us going. So I'm Mark Cochrane. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the regional manager for UFI in Asia Pacific. I will be moderating this session. And just before I introduce our panelists, or actually I'll let them introduce themselves, you can see the chat on the side is open, so you can post questions there. And if we call on you, then we'll unmute your mic and then you can ask those questions. We really want to keep it interactive throughout the whole session, so don't hold back. If you have, in the first minute or two, if you have a question, be sure to put it in the chat. Okay, so I'll quickly just, as you can see on screen there, we have Athena Gong, who's Vice President of Informa Markets Asia, based in Shanghai. We have Diane Chen, the General Manager of Shenyang New World Expo. Michael Kruppe, the General Manager of SNIEC in Shanghai, and Monica Lee Müller, the Managing Director of HKCEC in Hong Kong, which is where I am as well. So maybe we'll just take a minute to let each of the speakers introduce themselves, say a few words, and then we'll get into the questions. Diane, why don't we start with you?
Hello, everyone. As Mark said, my name is Diane Chen. I'm General Manager and board member of Shenyang New World Expo, which is located in the city of Shenyang. Maybe many internationals not very familiar with Shenyang, but it's a relatively small town, 9 million inhabitants in China. It's the largest capital city in northeast of China. We're very happy to be here to share good news. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Did you say it's relatively small with 9 million people?
That's correct. Compared with Shanghai, Michael is here.
Okay, fair enough. Athena, next, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. And hi, everyone. It's Athena from Informa Markets China. So I'm the Managing Director of Informa Markets China. Actually, we have 7 offices in China located in different cities. And we have nearly around 1,000 people working on the exhibition industries in China so far, and for around 60 exhibitions. So I'm happy to be here too, and to share about China exhibition industry, the status, and our forecast in the coming year. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Athena. And now over to Monica.
I'm Monica Lee Müller. I'm the Managing Director of the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center. I'm also the immediate past president of UFI. So I'm very excited to talk to you about the current situation in Hong Kong and also to hear the good news from our friends from mainland China.
Thanks, Monica. And I like on my screen, you as our immediate past president. I can see Michael Duck there, our current president. I think Michael's in Phuket. We'll give Michael a chance to talk later on. The other Michael Kruppe in Shanghai, over to you.
Yeah, morning, everybody. Shanghai, 25-30 million people, as most of you know, in a heavy lockdown March to June. This year, we also were set up as a so-called Fangzang, a hospital with 20 halls, 2 halls, 20,000 square meters, with ICU units. We had, I think, 60, 80,000 people here in the hospital. But the dark days are over, and I think that's what we're discussing today. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. And beside Michael, we have Kai, our Managing Director. Hi there, Kai.
Oh, hello, good morning. I'm Kai, the Managing Director of UFI. And I'm curious to hear the news from around China, having been in Hong Kong myself a few days ago, and seeing, I was one of the very last ones who had to go through these kind of 3 days of Amber Code that are gone by now. And looking forward to hear Monica give us the updates.
Yeah, thanks, Kai. Yeah, Kai was here last week on Monday, and he had to go through the Amber Code, which meant restrictions about whether he was allowed to enter restaurants and bars. But that's all changed, so that's a good segue into Monica. Why don't you update things? I mean, the timing of this call is pretty perfect because things are changing so positively, so quickly. So maybe we can start with Monica. You can give us an update on where we are in Hong Kong. Just before the call started, Monica was saying there was even some better news today, some new development. So you can take it away, Monica.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, Kai, thank you for visiting us and being one of the last people who were, restricted to restaurant and so on. But as we mentioned earlier, a lot of restrictions or measures has been lifted, and the current policy for incoming visitors to Hong Kong, actually, there's no zero quarantine. It has been, zero quarantine for a couple of months, and that now that also there's no PCR test requirement before boarding the flight to come to Hong Kong. All you have to do is to register online on the health declaration code and to confirm your vaccinations. That's all. I mean, most of the world's recognized vaccinations are recognized in Hong Kong, and it's listed on the official website. So it's a self-declarations basically. And then you come in through the airport, as Kai has experienced, is between you step out of the airplane to you get on your taxi to the hotel is less than 30 minutes. Okay, so on the ground there is
Dominic won't. I talked to Dominic the other day. Dominic won't do any business with the company until Condu.
Oh, somebody better mute Paul there. There we go. Paul came in unmuted. So sorry, Monica. Can you continue?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy to travel into Hong Kong and out of Hong Kong. There's no more Amber Code after you arrive. So basically, after you landed, you can check into your hotel. You still have to do a few tests yourself and one more PCR test on day 2. Other than that, you can access any events, restaurants, cinema, entertainment, shopping mall. You're free to be anywhere and eat in the restaurants, go shopping and go to the bar and all that. So trade events, public events, conferences and all that are with free access. There's no more tracking is on the website or on the apps is required as well. So no more tracking as well. So it's pretty free.
Yeah.
So as I said, the momentum is catching up. People are out shopping in the mall and booking banquets. And as we're speaking yesterday, they were also lifted the maximum capacity for banquet. It has been for 240 people maximum per banquet for some months, and now is unlimited. Also for events, there's no limit on capacities. There's no restriction whatsoever. So we're having a concert here since yesterday from a local pop singer for 11 shows on. 2 weeks ago, we have international medical conference attended by over 1,000 people with 400 from overseas. So this is what is going on, and we're opening up to welcome international events. But more encouraging is that the government have rolled out incentive for international events. Currently, all exhibition enjoy 100% subsidies on rental, venue rentals. So for all exhibitions, there are 100% of rental subsidies by the government until July 2023. Until June 2023. As of July 2023, the government have rolled out $1.4 billion fund to help international exhibitions for 3 years. So they get again 100%.
Monica, I'll jump in there. I don't share all the good news at once. We'll get to the subsidies in a minute.
Okay.
So just to clarify, because my son just did this as he returned from Canada yesterday. So it's a health declaration, then you do a PCR test at the airport, and then a day 2 PCR test where you have to go to essentially a government clinic to do it, and that's it. And then there's no tracking app and free movement. I think I've got that right. So
Okay.
why don't we head over to Michael? Why don't you let us know what's the status in Shanghai for inbound travelers right now? Or I mean, I think we were talking before the call, it might be the same across China now, right?
Well, we are, as most people of you know, China government is always fast and pragmatic, especially if it comes to analysis of the economic situation. What Monica just mentioned with the subsidy, I just want to pick up on that before I come to the travelers. China, especially Shanghai, just lost too much money in supporting the zero COVID policy. It's not like Hong Kong. There is no subsidy for exhibitions or other people, maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, but unfortunately, not as great as 100% as you see in Hong Kong. Why? I just mentioned too much economic loss happened here. I don't want to repeat the past. So look ahead to the future. Again, China, as pragmatic as they were in the last 35 years, as long as I know the country and live here, when things are happening, they analyze and talk about visitors, supply chains, all these codes, what just Monica mentioned and so on, is basically lifted domestically. So the travel, inter-domestic travel between the provinces is basically, or actually really totally possible without any control, any check whatsoever. As of right now, in terms of international travel, China also were looking at Hong Kong in the past on, I think when you had 0+3 or 2+3 and so on. Right now it's 5+3. I heard about cases in Chengdu and Beijing of friends of mine, business friends, who actually were let out after 3 days already. And officially Chengdu in the middle of China already announced, as I heard this morning, and I forecast that it's just a question of weeks. I would say probably after Chinese New Year, latest end of January, that the international travelers would be able to come into China on a 0+3, maybe similar like Hong Kong, the 3 days you're not allowed to go to public places or restaurants, but then who can control it? I'm even predicting a 0+0, so 0 quarantine requirements if you want to come to China as of end January.
Michael, just for the wider audience who might be not familiar with the number approach, the way we use here, the 5+3 that you mentioned is 5 days quarantine plus 3 days testing?
Correct. Well, for local residents, if you're not a resident, then the 5+3 means 8 days quarantine in a hotel, in a designed hotel. If you're living in China, it's 5 days in the hotel plus 3 at your home.
Okay, that's helpful. Diane, do you want to add anything about the restrictions or the lifting of restrictions in your area?
I agree with Michael. The rules here is pretty consistent with national ones. It's on the 7th December, the China State Council issued this new guidelines of 10-point plan regarding the COVID prevention measures. We're pretty happy to see that China is accelerating the ease of the restriction. That means no PCR test requested anymore to enter the public places, and no health code or venue code is necessary anymore. So for centralized quarantine rules, COVID positive persons, and then for the close contact, all lifted as well. So for international travelers, Michael mentioned that I think still a negative PRC test is requested within the 48 hours. And then you need to apply a house code, I think, from the Chinese embassy. And once you come here, you need the 5+3 quarantine time. But we believe that quarantine requirement could be reduced and lifted very soon as well.
Thank you, Diane. Athena, before I get to you, Monica, Carla was asking in the chat what the situation is in Macau. Can you speak to that? Do you know what their requirements are right now?
Thus far, we have our separate administrations. So we have our own government. So policy are not exactly the same. So Macau also is you know, depending on the COVID situation and how the medical system runs, you know, but also I think that they're also going towards opening up as well, but not exactly the same like Hong Kong is completely open. Now it's no quarantine and no tracking, you know, free to access to all premises. Macau still have
Go ahead.
a few days of quarantine, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I saw on LinkedIn, one of the UFI members posted this week in Macau saying I'll look it up while we're on this call, but it was something like 5+3, as Michael mentioned.
Currently is 5+3. That means 5-day hotel quarantine. And if you're a Macau resident and have a home, then you stay home for 3 days under medical surveillance. But if you're not Macau resident, that means 8 days quarantines. At the moment, yeah.
Thanks, Monica. And Athena, you run the Informa business across China, so I think across multiple cities you have offices. Are there any differences remaining in how those cities are operating?
Yeah, actually, before I answer this question, Mark, I just followed what Monica just shared. Actually, for the Macau has the restriction for the inbound travelers, but for the mainland China travelers to Macau, there is no quarantine at all right now. And there is no quarantine back to mainland China. So that is what I added to the previous question. And yeah, Mark, you just mentioned about we have business across the whole China. Actually, the policy is quite different from the city to city 1 month ago or 1 week ago, actually. So different cities have their different restriction before the whole China relaxed the zero COVID policy. So before the policy, yes, city is quite different from each other. Some cities are welcome the exhibitions back. Some cities didn't run any exhibitions at all this year. But actually, after the relaxation about the open, the new policy in China, things changed very rapidly recently. So we can see that a lot of exhibitions has, a lot of cities has welcomed the exhibitions back again in December. So we just had our conference in Suzhou, the small city next to Shanghai yesterday. Actually, there is no any restrictions. There is no health code, no PCR test. So it's free entry for all the exhibitors and also the audience. So right now, Shenzhen, actually, they also have some exhibitions is on. There is no, they will check the health code to make sure you are not a positive person. But actually, if you are not a positive person, it's free entry for all the people to enter into the exhibition area. And for Chengdu, they also have the show is keep on going right now. There is nothing to check, no health code, no PCR test. So it's a free entry to all the people. So that is good news for our exhibition, industry. It's a good start. Actually, it's a good, closing for 2022. Well, it's a good start for 2023. Yeah.
So
yeah, indeed.
I would add something, Mark. The only requirement so far to enter the venue and the public places is to wear a mask. This is strongly recommended by the local government as well. And as Athena mentioned, the restriction nearly lifted, and even the event approval process here has been simplified. Go back to the as before in 2019. That means the normal approval needed from COVID Prevention Bureau or Commerce Bureau. So it is just go back to the normal.
So it's only wear a mask. That's it.
That's the requirement
the only
to
requirement.
enter the public places, right?
Okay. Okay, so
Mark,
we're getting
allow me. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, Michael,
just
go ahead, Michael.
On Diane, that's pretty important because we have indications that the approval systems for our shows in China will no longer, as of probably February, be in the hand of the police or the CDC, but back to the old days in the hands of people who knows what they talk about. So I think that's relatively good news. Diane, is it correct?
That's right.
Athena, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to turn to the chat for a bit. Florian Wagner has a question. He found some something from the media about reduced restrictions. Florian, are you there?
Could I jump in, Mark, for the question posed by Michael Duck?
Yep. Let's just see if Florian. So I don't hear him, so I'm just going to read what he wrote, and then we'll get to Michael Duck. You have quite a few, so we'll unmute you in just a minute. Florian said, I just came across this today. I don't know if it's valid. China will no longer take measures to segregate foreign entry to isolation facilities from the 3rd of January, 2023, optimized for a 0+3 policy. This also means that China will be fully open from the new year, 2023. I don't know. I don't know the source for that, but have any of the panelists heard something along those lines?
I
think-
believe
I-
it's, there's no
We don't have
official
own-
announcement.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That Michael just mentioned, but every people is expecting those we can open it in the middle or the late January.
Okay. Great. Now let's move. Michael Duck, thanks for joining us from Thailand, from sunny Thailand. Can Pascal, can you unmute Michael?
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. Well, I put on the side my concern about the airlift. You know, we're all trying to get international visitors back into China and to Hong Kong, but the present airlift numbers are very low. And what do the panel think? And what is the knowledge about the increase in airlift so that we're able to have as many internationals coming into our shows as possible?
Could I respond first?
Please,
I just
yeah.
saw the news in December. The 3 Chinese national airlines have added 136 international routes. I think the number will go up. You know, in China, if the Chinese government and national companies decided to do something, they will make it. So I'm pretty confident and I'm positive that international travelers will have, you know, international air flights to come back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Michael
followed to what Diane just shared. Actually, one is the those local airlines, they are added the international flights. Actually, those requirements has been required by the government in the late November. So the local airlines, of course, they will add a lot of international flights in the coming months. But actually, the other way, as I shared in our own meeting as well, so a lot of province, they are trying to bring the exhibitors out to participate in the international exhibitions abroad of China. So they have the chartered flights only for the exhibitions only. Something, for example, those exhibitors in Guangdong, they joined our, you know, Cosmoprof Asia in Hong Kong, in Singapore. So we had a chartered flight from Guangzhou to Singapore directly. So that is not a normal flight, but actually this is a chartered flight, how to solve the current problem now. And actually I had a conversation with the Zhejiang province last week. So the province government will bring 100 delegates to attend, to participate in international exhibitions outside of China. So they will use the chartered flights too. That is a good news to our exhibition industry at this moment.
Indeed. Yeah, that is good. Michael, did you have a follow-on question?
No, just the other one was in terms of what Athena was saying about the releasing of the restrictions. Does that include also masks? Or do people just leave the masks on anyway? But at the Suzhou conference, for instance, did the venue insist that there were everyone wore masks? And what was the percentage of people who did?
Needed. Yeah, mask
Still
is still needed. Yeah.
Okay. As Monica, we still have in Hong Kong in the streets.
There is
With
almost the
masks.
only restriction that we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. Everyone keep posting your questions, please, in the chat, and I'll bring them up to the panelists. Why don't we look ahead to 2023? I'll ask each of you essentially what your expectations are for your business in 2023. Diane, it's a nice, positive, optimistic one to go to. So why don't you share your
Yes.
views?
for 2023, we expect the business will go back to normal gradually. So far, we have 9 exhibitions well booked from March to May. So we're adding up more bookings. So we're pretty positive, confident about the business will go back.
Nice. Athena?
Yeah, just like what Dan just shared. Actually, for the exhibitions in China, as I shared a moment ago, actually all of the cities exclude Shanghai has reopened exhibition already in China. So that is means all the exhibitions can come back to China, and I believe Shanghai will reopen soon in the early next year. So that is for the exhibitions in China, our show. Actually, for the outbound, bring those Chinese exhibitors outside of China to participate in the international exhibitions. Well, according to our business, because we also have the outbound sales office responsible for the sales, the Informa, markets, other exhibitions outside of China, we can see that the rebound is very strong. And, even some exhibitions, we can see those exhibitor numbers has already the same as 2019. So that is also the good for the international pavilions, go to the China pavilion, go to other international exhibitions. Yeah, so that is what I see so far. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael, poor Shanghai, everywhere but Shanghai is back to business. What are you expecting in the new year?
Well, Shanghai always was and still is a bit behind the other Chinese city that has some political reasons, which I don't want to discuss more in details. But if we take 2019 as the benchmark of being normal, I'm very positive that 2023 will be a very good year. Most importantly, and let me just make that sure, because us 4 panelists have different businesses, although we are connected. For me, for us, most importantly, is that the domestic traveling can happen. Because in the year 2019, we had roughly 8 million visitors, out of which 95% are domestic. Of course, I want the 5%, which is like 400,000 visitors, exhibitors. Of course, I want them and I need them. But in order to be successful, survive, I can live until, let's say, mid of next year with 95%. And then hopefully, really, if everything is back to normal, in the second half, the international people will come. Because as of day one, also what Michael just mentioned, with maybe some flights are not beefing up and some airlines not having connections, even the quarantine is lifted, it will not be from one day to the other that hooray, all the internationals come flying in like bees. This will probably take 2 or 3 months time anyway, but the domestic open traveling is a guarantee for me here in Shanghai to be back to normal.
Thank you. Monica, what about you for your outlook for HKCEC in 2023? For Hong Kong, we rely so much, essentially almost entirely on internationals being able to access Hong Kong, and in particular our friends from the mainland, the Chinese visitors and exhibitors. So what are you expecting in 2023 in those terms?
Well, since April this year, April and May this year, in Hong Kong, our consumer fair has been non-stop. We've been busy with the local events, entertainments, and conferences as well. So now with all these new policies, all these updated policies, that there's no longer quarantine and all these testings or restrictions to venues. We are very optimistic about 2023. We actually immediately get a lot of inquiry back, and our recurrent trade shows organizers have been in touch and to reaffirm their bookings. Some of the events that has been relocated temporarily overseas has confirmed, back in 2023, including the Jewelry Fair and Cosmopole by Informa Markets. You might notice that one of the biggest auto shows in China, the Guangzhou International Automobile Exhibition in Guangzhou, were originally scheduled in November, has now announced to reopen or postpone to December 30th until the January 8th in Guangzhou, which is a big event in Guangzhou in southern part of China as well. So also with the reopening, traveling between Hong Kong and China soon, as I said, the mainland visitors coming to Hong Kong have been no quarantine for a long time. But on the returning trip, we also see the quarantine period has been shortened recently. We can foresee more mainland visitors and exhibitors will come through as of early next year in January. So we're very optimistic about international event as well. As I was so eager to share about the subsidies, because the government also see the returning of international events. So they have rolled out a new subsidy starting in July when the existing scheme expire in June. So we'll have another subsidies of 1.4 billion Hong Kong dollar for 3 years to attract international exhibition to return to Hong Kong. So, but this will go hand in hand as business return, this policy rolled out. So it is basically is continuing, for the next 3 years until end of June 2026.
So Monica, just in the interest of clarity for everyone, that policy which will continue is going to be renewed from the summer of 2023 for another 3 years. So that's to mid 2026. That is essentially free venue rental for any exhibition. What criteria do they have to meet in order to enjoy that very substantial subsidy?
Now, for the existing scheme, which will expire in June and continue until June 2023, that is all exhibition. Okay, all exhibition with over 1,200 square meter gross, then you automatically get 100% venue rental subsidized by the government. This is until June 2023.
B2B or B2C?
Anything until June 2023. As of July 2023, for international exhibition, again with minimum 500 overseas visitors or 50% of the total participants, whichever less, then is classified as international events, international exhibitions. Then you get again 100% venue rental subsidized. But with the cap of 20 million Hong Kong. 20 million Hong Kong is about 2.4 million euro per event cap. That is
very
subsidized.
Substantial.
So the threshold is very low for international trade show, but or consumer show, not just trade show, international exhibition. If you fall below that, if you have less than 500 international participants or less than 50% of the total participants, then you'll be classified as local exhibition. For local exhibition, you still get 50% total rental, venue rental subsidies. So still not bad at all.
Yeah, very good. Very good indeed. Our friends in China, are there any subsidies or so? You mentioned earlier, Michael, that there weren't. Are there any subsidies or support for the industry in any of your markets? I'll ask each of you, Diane, Athena, and Michael.
Yes, we are in the regional market, so most of the show are pretty much regional or national. We talked with the director of the exhibition bureau in Shenyang before this webinar. Actually, they expressed that they really want to exhibition industry recover soonest, and then they have budgeted 100 million RMB as subsidies for the organizer who will host the show in Shenyang in 2023. Of course, there's a whole bunch of conditions, how to reach, what's the portion they will get from the rental, how much rental they can get back for the organizers. So we have a documentary pretty ready if any organizer are interested too. Back to you,
Athena, do you want to add anything to that?
Actually, different city has a different, this is quite a local policy actually. So the subsidy depends on the local government, and all of them, I cannot see all of them, is most of the cities have their own subsidy and with a different, criteria. And also they have also some fund to support in this in the last 2 years, especially. So depends on the different city. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mark, let me just add on this one. I already commented on the subsidies, but to me, finally, the lobby work, which we all have been doing here with the local governments, have resulted in fruitful decisions, meaning that the local governments understanding exhibitions as a super incubator for their local business in related industries, travel, food, restaurants, you name it, which in the beginning of the pandemic situation, many governments not really realized because they never really analyzed. And I think what we have been doing also with UFI, and I think, Michael, you asked that question before, what can we do? That is continue lobbying, continue show how important. I mean, we know that, but let the other ones, let the government know that we are really important. And I think that for me is one result that now things can change very fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a vital point, Michael, and it's something that Kai and UFI have been focused on throughout the pandemic is, the economic impact that trade shows, that exhibitions have on the economy. Kai, you spent a lot of time on that in the past 3 years. You want to add anything?
Well, you want me to sing the full gospel? No, yes, of
Please.
course. It is a little bit of an ongoing conversation that advocacy is local and advocacy is global. Now, what we've done through the pandemic was to make sure that we have a joint narrative that we use around the world to when we speak with governments, to stress the importance of our ecosystem and that exhibitions are such a basic driver of economic and intellectual growth and societal development. We've taken that a notch higher, even the whole events industry, and together with the Joint Meetings Industry Council, developed a narrative for the whole sector, where economic impact is one of 15 elements, how we create positive impact as an industry. It's really, really great to see that this narrative is being used around the world. You will remember that UFI started some policy maker interviews with the one-to-one sit-downs in Singapore, with Hong Kong, Ireland, and a few other countries. That actually moved the needle in each case when it comes to understanding that critical role we have. At the same time, of course, it is always local. And it can't be the UFI team sitting in every town hall and every policy meeting on the regional level. So we work with the members around the world, with the member associations around the world to make sure that, as we say, we all sing from the same hymn sheet. We all build on this narrative and bring it to the local and regional decision makers. And what we've been quite successful in the background all the way through the pandemic was to connect the dots and say, we've had success with this line of argument here. Why don't you try it over there? And we can give you the positive case studies from here and there, the examples that they can bring to your respective local or regional authorities to underline the points we're making. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as we always say, and we all know. And it's so encouraging to hear from you, Michael, that finally, for instance, in Shanghai, I remember we went before the pandemic very regularly to the policymakers and made the point for our industry that it's coming back into their mind, and they're ready to utilize the power that we have and the resources that we can bring as the fastest of all fast tracks to a post-pandemic recovery in 2023 all across mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and the likes. Mark.
Thanks, Kai. Yeah, obviously this is going to be an ongoing multi-year effort that has to be done at the local level and through UFI, as you said. I remember soon after you joined UFI, we went to Beijing and we went to Tokyo to talk about the governments there about the importance of exhibitions, because in Tokyo at the time it was coming up because they were going to close the venues for 18 months in the lead up to the 2020 games without understanding the impact on the local economy. So long been an issue. There's two similar questions. Kun Prita from NCC in Shanghai, in Bangkok. is asking about the details of government subsidies for Chinese exhibitors to join overseas events. I'm not sure if any of the panelists know about this, but then Michael Duck asked a similar question. What does the panel think about China, cities, industries subsidizing international participation in overseas markets? Will this come back again? Michael says he's hearing some China groups being situated in Europe or the Mideast for 6 months to attend shows. Do any of you know anything about that? About obviously the importance of Chinese exhibitors at shows around Asia and the world can't be overstated. So, anyone have any idea about Athena? You do.
Yeah, I can add something here because we also have the outbound sales office and responsible for Informa markets, international exhibitions outside of China. So actually what we can see right now is the China government really want to, reboost the economy situation because it's quite challenging in China so far. So they are encouraging all of the provinces, they are encouraging their, companies to go abroad to win more business outside. So that is why the government gave even more subsidy to encourage the exhibitors go abroad to participate in international exhibitions. So as I shared a moment ago, we can see, for example, in Hangzhou, nearby Shanghai, 2 hours away. So actually it's a very manufacturing hub in the East China. So you can see that the subsidy for 9 square meters booth, the subsidy will go up to 50,000 RMB per 9 square meters, include the flights, include the hotels. So that means it's around 8,000 euro. Yeah, something like that one. So it's quite encouraging. So yeah, so back to the question, yes, of course, the government still has a lot of subsidy, even more than 2019, to encourage the Chinese exhibitors to go to attend our international exhibitions.
Excellent.
But the policy, someone asked about the policy, depends on different province because this is not a central government policy. It really depends on the regional, policy. For example, if these provinces are very strong on the textile, so they might have the specific policy for this industry. And for some, especially for those manufacturing hubs like in Zhejiang, Jiangsu or Guangdong provinces, they have a lot of subsidy go to encourage the Chinese companies go abroad. Yeah, you can check the policy on the government website. They do have that one.
So some of those subsidy policies are at the provincial level, and I think also through CCPIT, right? Through the sub-councils.
Yeah, I think it depends on, right? It's 2 parts. One is the provincial level, the other is the city level. So they can enjoy twice. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
Both policies, right?
Next, a question from Nick Dempsey. Pascal, can you unmute Nick and let him ask?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my question was simply that we witnessed in 2020 when shows came back in Shanghai in particular, that they came back really strongly, that we saw levels of attendance and exhibitor numbers that were not too different from 2019, which was completely different to our experience of reopening elsewhere in the world. So now that we're looking forward to a second reopening, do the panelists think that there'll be a slower ramp like we saw in US and Europe as exhibitions have returned, or very large numbers coming back straight away to the first few shows as they happen?
Good question. So who wants to take the crystal ball first? Athena, you want to guess what your numbers are in 2023?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. Actually, right, we have a record, a very strong 2020. So actually 2023, I even didn't want to look back. It's really miserable. Well, 2020, when we welcomed the exhibitions back in the second half in China, yes, we almost achieved the similar level as 2019, to be honest. It's a very strong back. Well, in 2023, I believe it quite depends on the exhibition brand. for those strong brands, they can continue to create a value to the exhibitors and their customers. They can gain, I cannot say it's almost the 2019's level, but I can foresee it's almost achieved the level of 2019. But for those exhibition brands, they are not strong enough and they lose their value to their customers in the last 2-3 years. They might face quite a lot of challenge in 2023. That is what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Athena. Any of the other panelists want to comment on that question?
Michael, you want to go ahead? How about your year 2020, 2022?
2023.
23. Okay, I'm not an organizer, but based on what we had in the years before, I can tell you that many organizers already keep calling me and my team and start to fight about time slots in 23. And that is definitely a good indication of how the whole industry is thinking how 23 will come up. So this is all I can say. And that gives me a pretty good feeling of what we can expect here.
Thank you. Diane?
Yes, for me, from venue standpoint, from 2020 to 2022, we have, I don't want to say shut down, but we reopened 10 times. but we were able to
That's
run
that's a lot of shutting down and opening 10 times.
Right.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we have been able to run half of the events booked once the venue were allowed to be able to open. So 2023, we really hope that no interruptions. And then when there's no interruptions for the events, we're pretty confident, 2023 right. will be a good year.
Monica, what are you expecting your 2023 to look like?
I would like to be more realistic. Sorry, you got me. Yeah, the business is looking good. The schedule is looking good. The recurrent events are coming back. We also have some new inquiry because of the encouragement and incentive given out by the government. For local exhibition or international exhibition, this is a very encouraging incentive on the venue rental. So we do have some new shows inquiry coming up for 2023. In fact, we actually have 5 new exhibitions in 2020. So we're optimistic, but I don't think 2023 will get back to 2019 like pre-COVID situation. Not because of the policy in Hong Kong, because of what's going on in the whole world. COVID is only one of the challenge. Now we're done with it. There are others happening in the whole world. When we're dealing with international events and international participants, we do have to look at that as well. So I'm optimistic, but also with some conscience there. So I think we'll be back, might not be 100%, but 80% quite confidently, and more hopefully. And
what are some, if I can, we've been pretty positive on this call, as we should be, because things are headed in the right direction. But what are some of those other issues weighing on your mind other than COVID that you mentioned?
Well, you're looking at the inflation all over the world. People might be more conscious about spending money on traveling. So I think exhibition is still the great and effective way to promote their business. But whether they send 5 people to man the booth, or 3 people, or the size of the booth or the area, then could be vary. So I think there shouldn't be any shortage of number of exhibition, but the mid-range could vary.
Right.
So also, the competition is fierce about different market. After 3 years of opening, there might be, different focuses on different industries and things like that. So we'll wait and see. So far, inquiry is strong. but the final meterage we'll have to see. What others would I concerned? I guess we just have to do the best to attract, our visitors back in terms of our service, in terms of facilities. So we have been doing a lot of trainings, a lot of renovation in the last 3 years to keep our service level and our facilities up to speed. And when we open up on a very high note and in a very good shape to welcome people. So yeah, I just
and Monica,
I think,
in the chat, Michael Duck asked Michael Kruppe about his first show in the calendar, and he said it's unknown. What about yours, HKCEC? What's your first show in 2023?
The toy fair in January.
Toy fair, which is in early January, right?
In January, and then followed by the fur and jewelry. So all these big fairs coming back. But these are the international shows. The local fair is going on as we're speaking. Last week we have 5 different exhibitions on construction innovations, on eco expos and other subject matters. And we also have international medical conference, as I mentioned, with over 400 overseas participants. So we also have the dental congress coming up as well. Yeah, we do. Oh, sorry, last week. Also the mega showcase. I have so much in my head.
Okay,
and this is
I'll refer them to your calendar. It's good. It's good to hear it's full. Okay, Diane and Athena, maybe I'd ask the same question to you guys. Are there any issues weighing on your mind other than, 2022 was such a difficult year for everyone in China in terms of COVID. Maybe that's all you've thought of, but are there any other challenges, any other issues that are on your mind as you look to manage 2023? Maybe start with you, Athena. Or, okay, Diane. Yeah.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
Athena.
Yeah. So actually, there are 3 concerns here. The difficulties we are facing in the coming year. First is, there is a news is like 6,000 contractors and service providers closed their business in 2022 in China. So that is, look back, what we have opened one exhibition in early November in Shenzhen. At that time, we are facing the challenge is short of the workers from the contractor. So you can see
Which
that
is
those people
something we don't usually hear that in Shanghai, shortage of labor, but yeah, okay, go on. Go on.
No, yes, yeah, you're right. Before we never think about that because it's we're oversupplied on the contract and service providers. But right now, yes, a lot of companies, they finished their business. So because of the challenge in last 2-3 years, so I believe that will take 3 to 6 months to recover. And this is the first challenge. The other challenge is like the economy situation, as Monica just mentioned earlier, because the exhibitors, they have the limited budget due to their concerns, or they'll be more conservative to use their money, right, to spend their money.
Right.
So that will be the second challenge, I think, is they will be very selective on those exhibitions. They might, join less numbers of the exhibitions because of their budget, and they have more consideration, etc., etc. And the last but not the least, and also the most important thing is like our exhibition industry lose a lot of talents in last 1-2 years. I don't know how about in other countries, but in China, this is a reality. So we also, when we are forcing the very promising 2023, we're also facing the challenge to how to, maintain the talents and develop the talents and to support our business. Yeah, so that is 3 points in my mind.
Yeah, those are very serious ones. And I'll also, I'll point everyone, Kai has put in the chat the 5 global trends that UFI has published, authored by Kai. And you just hit on quite a few of them, Athena. I think it's really an unknown at this point when the industry restarts, how much damage there is to our supporting ecosystem. So those stand contractors, the sales agents, how many of them have gone out of business? How many of them can ramp back up quickly? Those are really key issues. Diane, do you have similar thoughts or any other issues on your
I do
mind that are
share the
different?
first 3 points. That's also similar to my first 3 points as well. Athena just explained. I would like to add one more point. Is we feel like this is a reality too. People are more health conscious, including staff and guests. So as venue, we need to keep thinking how to create a safe, healthy environment for the staff and our customers. That's we have to keep mind open and then be innovative and do better customer service. So that's our challenging, but that's our focus as well.
Thanks, Diane. Michael, anything to add?
Yeah,
Michael
I'm thinking more on the operational side of that, because as Diane just mentioned, even before COVID, safety was always our principle. You may remember I introduced the SSS model, safety, safety, safety. And if the industry is out of experienced staff and we will have big shows in the building up of a show, it looks like a huge construction site. And if people doing jobs which they have not done before because contractors could not find anybody, and then they take basically anybody from the street, right, there is a massive risk of running into accidents. So we will prepare for monitoring contractors, and of course the organizers, our customers will do the same, because nobody wants accidents to happen.
Right.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, Michael Duck, did I see you put up your hand to say something?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Sorry. What I wanted to say was in terms of what's been said by the panel already. Basically, I'm actually very positive about next year. I think we're going to have some much better results than we all think, because I think people are going to come back in the market in China and Hong Kong much quicker than we believe. But, and I put the caveat but of what we just discussed in regards to talent and labor. And these are areas that a lot of governments really don't understand that this is part of our business, and that you can't just switch on a show in 1 week's time, which a lot of people believe. They don't know the dynamics of it. And so we've got to impress this on governments in terms of the need for long-term planning. Hence the questions I had earlier about the airlines. They have long-term plans as much as hotels do, and when they're opening. How many of the hotels are fully open or only have 10% or few floors open, etc. So we've got to work this all in synchronization as an industry, and also with other industry bodies. And I'm sure Kai has been discussing a lot of these things also with JMAC and ICARE, etc. over the past year. But we've got in our region to ensure that we've got this synchronization happening, so that we don't have those problems that Michael's just alluded to, where you've got people on a building up at the show floor, and suddenly the central floor plan exhibitor doesn't turn up, or they haven't got the right person measuring out. It's all been working as clockwork over so many years that it's become normal. But the last year and a half has been anything but normal.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, everyone, so we're out of time. Maybe I'll just give the panelists, is there any, you don't have to say anything, but with the panelists, is there anything you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to? All right, Monica, yeah.
Yeah, I know that we have a lot of challenges. Labor is one, and flight and all that. But I'm also being grateful that we have the past 6 months, or this year, as the run up of complete recovery. So we have the domestic shows for more than a year, or actually we haven't stopped the domestic shows. As the business gradually picking up, we have workers returning. We are actively recruiting, and yeah, things might not turn 100% overnight, but we are in such a transition period, and we still have time to catch up. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. but as we were experiencing this transition period, I see workers returning to the show floor. We're recruiting more people on the food and beverages, people who left our industry because they didn't see the light of the tunnel. Now they see business returning. I'm also working in vocational training school. We're doing the engagement into younger generation and our wider audience in our community. I think the advocacy that UFI have put out in the last 2 years or 3 years to educate the society and the larger community internationally about the purpose of exhibitions and the prospects. If you work in this industry, the narrative about our industry is working slowly but surely.
Nice.
And I'm pretty much optimistic we can work through all these challenges. And I'm seeing this happening gradually.
Thanks. Thank you, Monica. Any of the other panelists, any final word?
Monica has said pretty much all.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
He's
everyone,
ready for questions.
everyone, thank you very much. Yeah, 2022, especially in China, was a very trying year. So we're looking forward to a much more profitable and optimistic 2023. So I'll just leave it there. I'll say Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you to the panelists for joining at last minute. And thanks to everyone who joined this call. We'll see you in 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Best cheers.
Bye-bye. Very